Each of these antiques has their own flaws. I mean, each of them has dings and dents. And so once you breathe some new life into this, it still has those flaws. And I think that's what people really appreciate. I grew up, my father was a Muslim and my mom was a Christian. I was kind of raised in both. So I went to the mosque and I went to church. My father passed away when I was 8 years old. He died of a brain tumor. I was really just angry with God. I didn't believe that he existed. I mean, how could he? My father died of a horrific brain tumor, and I saw him through the whole process. He looked like Frankenstein, stitches across his head, and it was just awful to see that as a child, and just to understand how a God could do that sort of thing. So I grew up in church with my mom being a single mom after my father passed, but I would always get in trouble because I was constantly questioning and trying to understand and figure things out and how does this whole thing work. And I was always shut down. We kept going to the church regularly until I was about, 10 or 12. I really just started to drift away a little bit. So when I got into college, I met my now wife. We agreed on pretty much everything, but the one thing we didn't agree on was religion. I wasn't buying it. I wasn't buying how it worked with science, how it worked with, the real world. But my wife was wanting to pursue it. We just had our first child, and this conversation kept coming back around. And we would have some pretty big fights about it, that I didn't want to raise my kid with anything. I was just gonna let him have the choice. I don't know why my heart softened to it, but one random day, I literally just Googled churches in Granger, and GCC was the first one that came up. So that first Sunday I went, it was Dr. Bob. It was the Jesus in the Real World series. And it was Jesus and Science. And I sat down and my mind was just blown away. All these things that I had tried to unpack earlier and had conflict with, things just started to click a little bit more. I'm like, okay, maybe this makes sense. Really part of my journey has just been consistently taking steps. We went to basic training and a couples connect and some of the events that GCC kept putting on. When the opportunity came up to group up, my wife signed us up for a group and I said, sure. Ended up deciding to get baptized, taking consistent steps and, step after step. And then all of a sudden I feel like I was walking with Christ, and it was this charged feeling inside of me. It was something tangible and palpable. My son had been enrolled at the Early Learning Center. They were speaking truth in his life. It's just so incredible to see what a heart for Jesus my oldest son has. I mean, he prays all the time. I mean, he has all this truth that's been spoken into him, and it's one of those things like I feel like we're doing right as parents. I recall one of the topics that came up during small group was the idea of giving, and I remember unpacking that with a group and just feeling very guarded. All of a sudden, now it was real. Being in finance, and I know what the cost is, and there's a value to that. My wife and I both work really hard. Giving up a piece of that was giving up a piece of ourselves, but I think it was worth it. There's a joy that I didn't have before. It's almost like an eyelid that wasn't opened until I started to really have that different side of me. Through this whole process, I was kind of reshaping my identity. The identity that I had had from my past, and I'm becoming a new person. I'm starting to believe in these things, and the church is going through all these steps. They're preparing something for me. I just felt like it was important for us to start giving back. For fun, I actually buy and sell antiques and kind of refinish, restore things as I find them, putting a little bit of elbow grease into it, and putting some of myself into bringing it back to life. Christ made me new. When he brought me back, it was this reawakening. I want to be used by God, and I want to do anything that I can to help him build his kingdom. I don't know what we would do without GCC here, with all the things that they have, from the school downstairs to the weekend services to all the things that they offer outside. I mean, without it, I don't know what this community would look like. I do know, however, what this community could look like if we all just kind of dug in and got together. Let's just do it.